Welcome to the blank show insert title here.
Yeah,
Uh,
three old '80s dudes.
cool. Well, anyways,
Yep.
I'm Michael. A lot of people know me as Coach K around these parts. Co-host Brad and Doug joining us. If you want to say
I'm Doug.
something,
Yep. I'm the neighbor on the other side of the fence.
that's right. And he's a good neighbor as well. Two of my best friends, reality. So. We'll be talking music, probably mostly 80s music, that kind of stuff, and uh, like and subscribe if you like the content, I guess.
Hmm.
So, um, I guess first up on the list, we got favorite 80s music memories. Doug, why don't you start us off?
I mean, for me, when I think about the '80s and music, it's just how many concerts there were. It seemed like every weekend somebody was
Hmm.
in town. Sometimes there's multiple bands in town. And then towards the late '80s, you start getting the stacks where you'd have the three bands together, and just and you didn't have to go through all the Ticketmaster crap. You just went down to local Dayton's or Music Around or Music Land, and stand in line and grab a ticket, and it was part of the experience.
They sleep in the parking lot
Yep.
at Dayton's and try
Yep.
to get there early enough, but I don't know. A lot of our concerts that we went to were general admission, weren't they? Like Brown County Arena and stuff. So I don't know why we waited to get to them, but maybe some of them had assigned seats. But were you when you grew up, you were near the Twin Cities?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had probably even more
Oh
options.
yeah.
We basically had, either we're going to drive to Milwaukee, which we hated, at least I did, hated it, or we'd go up to Green Bay. Brown County Arena was where a lot of the big ones were, but um, yeah, so you probably had a lot more options
Oh
out
yeah.
here.
Yeah, especially I mean, because I lived in the Twin Cities until I was in eighth grade, and then moved to Wisconsin. But we were only 45 minutes away, so it was almost like a displaced Minnesota city. We were a lot closer Twin Cities than you were to Madison or Milwaukee.
I bet you my first 7 or 8 concerts were either at Brown County Arena in Green Bay or Alpine Valley. So there weren't a lot of options in terms of where bands were coming to play like
Hmm.
it's now. But then again, that was, like you said, Doug, the day of arena concerts. You didn't have to get the tickets on the internet. You just went and bought them at a music store or Dayton's or wherever they were being sold. And yeah, they seemed like they were in the $15 to $20 range, especially if they were at the Brown County Arena. Alpine Valley was probably closer to 30.
What I miss about those days, because back then they the bands toured to support the record. They got all their money from the record sales, so they didn't have to charge $180 a ticket, because they're not making the majority of money on the tour, whereas now it's the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
And how about that awesome T-shirt? That T-shirt back in the day would be $20,
Hmm. Yeah, no,
you
it's
know,
50 spot. Yep.
50 or $60 for a T-shirt.
Yeah, another reason for that is the venue takes half the t-shirt sales. So the band said, well, okay, you guys, instead of us getting $10 for the t-shirt after charging 20, we still want our 20, so we're gonna start charging 40 if that's what you're gonna do.
Well, the
And
lines are still long. I mean, we were just at Hailstorm, and I just jumped up the line just to see if that because I'm collecting the stickers now, if they have any, and none of them did. So, but the line was huge. People were dropping, you know, dropping the money down to get the T-shirts and whatnot. So
yeah.
this hat cost me $30 for just a bucket hat. So yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, what I kind of went like earlier, like when I was a kid, staying up late for Friday night videos. You guys remember
Oh,
Friday night videos?
I
the poor
remember.
Um,
poor man's MTV before you
yeah,
could
but
afford
yeah,
cable.
we didn't have cable, and until way later. So just staying up and seeing the cool videos and such on Friday nights. And one of my other favorites that I still can hear on like satellite is the Casey Kasem Top 40 Countdown. Like I looked forward to that every week to see who was number one and all that. And to the point where my brother Mark and I would create our own top 10 countdowns, and we would show each other our top tens. And the only thing I can remember from that time was like 5 out of the 10 were Michael Jackson.
The 80s metal scene kind of flipped from Iron Maiden, Ozzy, Judas Priest in the early 80s to when Def Leppard came out and Quiet Riot, Come On Feel the Noise came out, and Motley Crue. That era
Mm-hmm.
TV kind of helped launch what the rest of the 80s pretty much was in terms of the, I guess, revisionist history calls it glam metal. We called it heavy metal at the time, but
Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Well, if it's not necessarily just 80s too, but like late 80s, early 90s, unwrapping the cassette and the smell of the cassette. I don't know. I enjoyed it. Organizing alphabetically. If I got an AC/DC, that was going to take a long time to organize it, but I enjoyed it versus a ZZ Top where I just put it in at the end. But the other thing too is the midnight releases. So my kids, looking forward to when this album or song drops on Spotify, and they stay up till midnight. It's like they don't know, how cool it was to hang outside of the record store at midnight, waiting for them to open up so that you can go in and buy the physical Use Your Illusion or Metallica tape.
Yeah, I mean, and that's another thing I miss about today or about the days is actually always having the physical media. Like my wife always gives me a hard time about quit buying so many CDs. You can find all that on Spotify. It's all online. I'm like, yeah, but I'd like to hold the CD, open up, read the book, read who the band members are thinking, and for
The lyrics.
guitar players, who they're playing Jackson guitars and supported by Marshall amps, and
Yeah, there was a short time frame there with the downloading it that you could download like some kind of a book jacket or some kind of a PDF file when you bought the album, and I can't say I ever even opened any of those. It was just kind of like, really, if it's not physical, I don't even want to bother.
Yeah. That was probably the attempt to sway some of us old timers, so to speak, to switch media. But if you think about it, like I've got a bunch of records that were given to me from like my aunt, and some of my first music things were LPs, and then it was tapes, and I was probably the last one of our friend group to transfer to CDs just because I had so many cassettes, and it was just like I don't want to do that. And then next thing you know, I've got 700 CDs, and then we're talking MP3s and sharing and now downloads. So
yeah,
I kind of one of the things I love about Spotify is to creating playlists, because I just loved back in the day making burning CDs or making compilation cassettes, and those would be all day projects if you wanted to make one cassette, and random songs from other cassettes, and you just dub them from one to the other, and it was a day project. And it was, like I said, it still liked it, but now it's like, oh, I want to put 100 songs in a playlist and hit shuffle. I mean, I could do that in a half hour.
Yeah.
I mean, but when CDs came in, to me, it was just so awesome. Just, I can hit 7, go right to track 7. I don't have to rewind, fast forward, and then you go zip sack, and
Yeah, my buddy Chris moved in with me, and he had a 5-disc changer, and he went to CDs way before I did, and it was just kind of cool just putting 5 of them in there and just hitting shuffle, I mean, it would take a little bit to switch CDs, but I thought it was kind of cool. And I made a random mixtape off of whatever it shuffled. I did have a lot of tapes where it was like you could hear the song fading away and the DJ coming in because it's like, oh, I don't have that song, and I know it's coming on Top 9 at 9 or something like that, and I got to record it, so I have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think kids understand the struggle, and I don't know about you guys, but like I would make mixtapes for girls. That
Yeah.
was my thing. I would make mixtapes for girls and drop them off and have all these love songs and whatnot, but I put a lot of pride into that. Nah,
Oh, you
physically
player, you.
physically delivering a cassette.
Yeah.
The Michael Jackson era, those pop songs being really big in the early 80s. MTV probably really shaped my 80s experience. But yeah, when Come On, Feel the Noise and Rock of Ages was on MTV, I really liked it when Joe Elliott had that sword that he was going back and forth with.
Oh, yep.
Scorpions Rock You Like a Hurricane. That era really turned me on to the genre, and then I feel like I wouldn't say it peaked for me, but it once Living on a Prayer and some of those songs were hitting big in the late 86, early 87. I remember watching an episode of Criminal Minds where that Sheldon type character, I don't remember what his name was, but he's super smart, and they were investigating some crime about music at what you hear when you're around the age 13, 14, 15 is usually the type of music that shapes what you will be interested in for the rest of your life. So, for me, it was 14 in 1989, and you think about some of the stuff that was out at that time. I mean, some of the biggest albums, even still, not everybody bought Guns N' Roses the day it came out, but, you get into mid 88 when Sweet Child of Mine's number one on the radio, and there's that one. How many did that sell? And then the first Skid Row album was early 89, and some of those, the second Aerosmith, well, I shouldn't say second, but the second one after the comeback,
Yeah.
Pump was big, and
Permanent Vacations, and yeah. And you think about how, like 10 years ago, how all the kids today all of a sudden start discovering all that music through Rock Band and Guitar Hero. And it's like, hey, you don't have to tell me about it. I lived through those songs, man. That's a soundtrack of my youth.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that today because, we're talking about like the movies like Bohemian Rhapsody coming out and all that. But I think for my kids, the big ones were like they were on a commercial and they would hear me play a song like, well, that's a Chrysler commercial or something like that. And it's like, no, that's that's just a regular song. But then when, like you said, Rock Band and Guitar Hero came out, like then they really were getting into those kind of songs.
Yeah. And I always just had fun. The kids be playing that, like be playing "Here I Go Again" by Whitesnake, and I have my guitar on and I'm playing for real along with it, and they're looking over like, "You're doing what's on the screen." Yeah.
But you're not getting any points.
Let's talk about some of the underrated bands that you guys like.
Okay. Go ahead, Mike. Start. What do you got in mind?
Well, I jotted down a couple here. First thing when I saw that, first thing that came to mind, and actually I'm wearing the hat, is Blues Traveler, the album 4. I went to go see them in concert, but we got there so late because of the parking situation that we actually only saw like 2 or 3 songs. And so I don't really know how good they are live, but he's probably the best harmonica player, hands down, even better than Billy Joel or anybody else, Bob Dylan, that I know. And like that album 4 for me, like every track was awesome. And my favorite song, he didn't even play that night. And I went back on set list to see if they played that song, and it's called Just Wait. And that's one of my top 5 songs of all time, is off of that album. So after we went to that concert, then I just played the album again. It's like I can't skip any of these songs. So that's the first one that came to mind. I know it's not really 80s era, kind of an offshoot of that. If you go back to the 80s/early 90s, I think the 2 bands that stick out to me were Ugly Kid Joe, and that was kind of like at the tail end. But I've listened to some more recent albums of theirs, and they're still pretty good.
Mhm.
So they would still kind of fit in that era back then. And I don't know if they were really, they kind of make fun of like the glam metal era, like in a few of their songs. So I don't know if they really were a part of that, but I seen them live when they opened for Ozzy. And they only played a couple of songs because they were the first of 3. Um, and the other one for me in that era, and I don't know if they belong necessarily in glam metal, it was White Lion, just because of how artistic they actually were. If you listen to like some of the music and like the lyrics were always to do with something, political or something like that. So they weren't singing about,
Yeah, it
picking up
wasn't all
girls and
sex, drug, and rock and roll.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
But it fit well with the music of the time. But those 2 bands to me just popped up when I was thinking about that today. Like what bands were kind of underrated and kind of you get swept up into the hair band or the glam metal scene because that's the sound necessarily. But those were the 2 I was kind of thinking about.
What about you, Brad?
Um, yeah, just one more on White Lion. The guitar player, I don't know if I can ever say his name right. Vito
Vito Bratta.
Brada.
uh, he drew some Eddie comparisons in terms of his technique and his style of playing. I think he had to retire early to either take care of some family members that were sick, and
Yeah,
but yeah, the singer's still touring and playing those songs, and they're I think they did kind of fit into that era, probably because they they hit it big right around the same time as
Mhm.
Whitesnake and Great White, and everybody's like, okay,
yeah.
Okay, you're a white animal. One of my favorite stories about the guys in White Lion is, so Carol and I have Till Death Do Us Part. We played that at our wedding ceremony, in the church ceremony. It was
yeah,
during the lighting candle portion, and for the program, the pastor needed us to put in there who's the songwriters. I mean, I guess legally they have to do that or whatever. And so it's Mike Tramp, Vito Bratta.
Yeah.
And it's like she kind of gave us a look, but it's
Well, it's
like,
too bad you could have used his actual real last name is Trampano with
oh, that's right.
yeah. So it's too bad.
Oh,
you
where is he
didn't,
from? Is it Sweden or what?
Denmark, I believe.
Denmark? One of those?
Yeah, one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I even seen them live at all.
Yeah.
And Vito was so good. There's a story that Sharon Osbourne actually asked him to join Ozzy's band right before they got Zach, but he turned it down because one of the stipulations, she said he had to change his last name. His last name was too ethnic,
Oh,
and he's
jeez.
like, "F you, no." So,
Well, by then he might have seen the writing on the wall that you really only get a couple albums with Ozzy. You're not allowed to get too big.
yeah.
So you either die or move on or what?
Sharon's gonna get rid of you before you get,
So you
you're
think Sharon had something to do with Randy Rhoads?
not Randy Rhoads. It's just wasn't gonna he wasn't gonna be playing for Ozzy for the next 10 years anyway. He was almost already too good.
Yeah.
He would have been able to go and, well, like Zach Wild, go start his own band and do do his own thing. But I think a couple of the bands from that late '80s era, one would be the one hanging on the wall behind you. Those first two Junkyard albums
Oh
were,
yeah, I was thinking about that today too.
yeah, those were pretty good, and they didn't really get a lot of fanfare, which is too bad. And then the other one that I really liked was King's X. They had a little bit of success with the song Black Flag, but that was right after grunge hit, and I don't think that they got, you know, a lot of support from record companies. I don't remember them touring on their own. They seem to be still opening for other bands by the time that song hit. And they came out with an album in '94 called Dog Man that it had some grunge type of influence to it. But compared to some of the other bands like Dokken and Def Leppard that put out albums in the mid '90s where they were kind of going away from their original sound to try and cater to what the music scene was at that time, it didn't work. But for King's X, that album that came out in '94 is one of my favorite releases by them. Yeah, and there were 4 different album covers that were all different colors. But
And so you had to buy all 4 for your collection.
if you wanted to display it that way, and you were crazy enough to buy the same disc 4 times, sure.
Well, they know some of us were probably that crazy, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of buying multiple copies, I know once Skid Row released Slave to the Grind, there was one copy with that had the sticker on it, and there was another copy that didn't because it had a different song.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
yeah.
Here's
Yep.
Dick versus Get the
Yeah,
Fuck Up.
Yeah, I end my playlist, my Skid Row set list playlist with that song.
Yeah,
Have them come back on for the second encore. Say like, "What are you still doing here? Get the f out."
yeah.
I wanted to ask you when we're talking about underrated bands, both of you guys. What are your thoughts on Scorpions? Because they were a '70s band that stayed with it, really hit it like you said with Rocky like a hurricane, then really hit with Winds of Change, and then they still keep making albums. Like I think they just released one, and some of the songs on these albums are pretty good. So would you put them in the underrated category? I mean, because they did get props a couple of different times, but I don't know if they ever like hit
I
it
always
as
thought
big.
they were properly rated. I thought they
Yeah,
were given enough props. Yeah. And
yeah,
huge band.
and
Yeah.
they're still touring.
They remind me a little bit of Queen, where they probably get more worldwide attention than they do in the States. In the States, I think it was pretty much, well, they switched, I think, record companies with Love Drive, those ones in the '70s. I think when
Mercury.
they came out, yeah, they kind of catered their sound a little bit more to be successful in America. Same thing that Whitesnake did when the self-titled album came out. They kind of tweaked their sound a little bit to make it a little bigger, a little bit more arena friendly.
You guys have heard the original version of "Here I Go Again"?
Yeah.
They'll play that on the radio, and it's just so bad. I can't, like a hobo, like
Yeah.
it just
I was just gonna say that. Yeah. I was like,
it just
what
doesn't.
was he thinking with that lyric?
It just doesn't. He obviously thought it was bad enough to change it when they re-released it, but the '87 version is so good. And then I don't know why the radio station will play the old version once in a while, and because you get into it, it's like a hobo, like so bad. So you guys think Scorpions are probably rated well? I just always thought they were one of my favorite bands. When I was younger, they're never like my top favorite, but like I could listen to their old stuff. I could listen to their new stuff. It's kind of like Aerosmith, you know, like I could listen to every era of both of those bands.
Yeah, I mean, to me, they were always in the top three. To me,
Yeah.
it was like Dokken was always number one, and then White Lion, and then Scorpions, and maybe Scorpions / Def Leppard, kind of tied.
So who would you think would be the underrated bands of that you were liking other than
Well,
White Lion?
I mean, when I'm listening to my songs and the ones I go back to, I listen to a lot of Babylon AD. I just love everything they do. Another band called Vane. They were good. Dangerous Toys. I was just listening to that on the way home tonight.
Yeah, I did not like Dangerous Toys when they came out.
What?
I
Oh,
know. I
Mikey,
did.
it
I know.
hurt
I
me. It
did.
hurt me.
I know. But then when you and I went and saw them live, I'm like, oh yeah, those I like those. I mean, I liked a couple of their songs, but they just were not like when I think of Dangerous, I was Danger over Dangerous Toys.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I didn't really care for them other uh they did the cover Feel Like Making Love. That was good. Um but when we saw them live, then I kind of go back to that like, oh yeah, those were some good songs. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna say I remember liking the first Dangerous Toys album, but really loving the second one. That one, almost every song on that one, I really liked.
so bands that exceeded your expectations live.
Hmm.
Well, you're thinking I'll just go. Um, I put three different ones on here, all kind of different bands. The first one I really thought of is Doug and I went to see Tom Kiefer a few years back, and he, I think when we go see bands now, it feels like they cash it in. This guy sang every song, gave energy to every song, dripping sweat.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, yeah, he was
At
wet
the
by
end of
the
the
end of the night.
concert, his voice is, like I I've seen so many bands at that kind of venue that was like, okay, they're playing because they need to make money now because they don't have any money anymore. But
Yeah.
this guy played like his career depended on it. And you could just tell when they put that much love and heart and soul into it. So I really appreciated that. That was an unexpected, like, because I was just expecting, we'd go there and see Slaughter or this and that and the other, and Firehouse or whatever. It's like they're just playing to play, but this guy, like, he gave us our money's worth basically. Like he knew our money's hard earned, and he was going to put on a show, and it was a small venue, but it was like he gave it like he was playing the arena venues. And
Yeah.
then the two other ones that came to mind, again, not 80s hair bands, either one of them, but one is Weird Al. Like Weird Al just kind of every generation he keeps reinventing himself because he can with parodies. But as far as live performances, like I just saw him this summer, and he again put everything into it. Like the music, the stage presence, and the costumes, just everything. So he's another guy. And every time I've seen him, it's been like that. Um, and then I want to go back to early 90s REO Speedwagon. Now, Brad and I went and saw him not this last summer, but the summer before. But early 90s, when they brought on a couple of young guys into the band, it juiced them. And it was like a rock concert. It wasn't just like, 80s ballads, can't fight this feeling. Like the new songs had like some edge to them, not necessarily on the cassette, but live sounding. It was like, oh wow, this is really good. And I've probably seen REO Speedwagon 7, 8 times. So I don't think that they were as good as they were in the early 90s, but those guys are old too. What do you think of those Doug, you were with us with Tom Kiefer.
Yeah, that was a good one to bring up. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, he heart and soul, like you said, put it into that. He was so that's a good one. The other one, I saw Chicago once, and I mean, I knew 24, 25, 6 to 4, and a couple of the other ones, but when you go there and see them with all their horn section, and
Was this
I mean, I was going there.
after Peter Cetera?
I think it might because it was 1990, 91. Yeah, so
Okay,
he
so
would have went solo by then.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, going there as a metalhead, 80s guy, and I'm like, wow, I can get down with this. That was cool.
yeah. We saw went to Kansas City to watch a Chiefs Packer game, and we went to a barbecue, and they had this band. Was it 4 chickens and a Coke or 4 Cokes and a chicken? I can't remember. Whatever the line is from Animal House, that was the name of their band, and they had horn section, guitars, everything, and they played a couple of Chicago songs, and they had 3 different sets, and everybody kind of left after second set. It was just like a handful of us there, and they did 25 or 6 to 4, and it's like I was hoping they would do it, and they just killed it. So I can't imagine how Chicago would sound if that song is just so awesome to see live, and so many people miss that band. But I would love to see Chicago in their prime doing that. They kind of get a bad rap with like the two separate kind of sounds, but for me, I dug both sounds. Like when I do a playlist, I mix them both together. Like I like both of them, pre and post Peter Cetera. But like the horn section, yeah, there's just some of those that if you could see live, just the different kind of instruments and whatever that aren't in your typical rock band.
Hmm.
Brad, how about you? What some live bands that exceeded your expectation?
Yeah, I agree with Tom Kiefer. Just knowing the struggles that he's had with his voice in the past, and knowing that he does about hour and a half to 2 hour warm ups and vocal exercises the day of the show. So you add that on top of his performance. Now you're talking about a lot of time spent. Or if him and John Bon Jovi have gotten together and
Mhm.
you know exchanged any notes on what to do. Um, some of those bands that you don't have expectations for and they blow you away tend to be opening bands that you wouldn't expect, a whole lot from because you're not really going in even wanting to see them. But when I saw Primus open for Rush back in '94, I think I knew 2 or 3 of their songs. Jerry Was a Race Car Driver and My Name is Mud, the ones that were out at the time. And I didn't realize how talented that band was. I didn't realize they were a trio just like Rush. And I'm watching the guitar player and the drummer just go off, and they were all over the place. I mean, I knew Les Claypool was an awesome bassist, and he had his own style that didn't really fit into probably any other kind of genre of music. But watching them live was really a lot of fun. And then Mike, when we saw Night Ranger
Oh yeah.
Greenville in 2018, I've seen them twice since, and just watching those guys play and seeing how much fun they have. Um, they're a band that I would go and see every time they come in the area. They're just their musicianship is top notch. You've got a drummer that's sings lead. You've got a guitar player that's out there smiling at the audience the whole time. He's just playing these intricate, amazing riffs. He's not even looking down at the neck. He's just into it, and they're a lot of fun. They laugh and goof around and have a lot of fun on stage. They feel like they're really glad to be there, which gets the crowd into it. And when you see them having fun, it's hard not to appreciate
Mhm.
have fun back.
Well, like some of these bands treat, I get it's their job, it's their employment, but they treat it as such, and you can almost feel it when they do that. So then when you do have a band that looks like they're having fun and create that fun for, I go back to, and I think it was an interview I saw with Richard Marx and him bitching about having to play the hits when he goes out there, and it's like. Those are the only reasons those people are there for you, dude. Like I get that, you know, right here waiting for you. Now you got to play it every night, and if you don't really love that song, but I always got mad at artists like that because I thought like, for example, the song that we wrote, "Some Things Are Meant to Be," if that could get out there and be played by the radio, you know, hundred times a day, you know, all over the country, and then you get to play it to an audience and them singing it back to you. I just think that would be the coolest thing ever in the world. And you're gonna stand up there like, oh, I don't have to play Right Here Waiting again. Like, okay, dude, whatever, man. Like, nobody wants to hear the new song that you came up with. Like, they're here for that. And the fact that you could turn your mic off and put it to the crowd and they'd sing the whole thing back to you, like you got to be proud of that and not like, oh, I got to do it again.
What would happen to Tommy Two Tone if he got sick of singing Jenny? No,
Like Doug and I went to a concert. I don't remember who was. I can't remember the main artist, but it was. I remember Accept opened up for them. Like the only song I know is "Balls to the Walls," like from them, and it's just like everybody was waiting for that song at the end. And it's like, if you decided not to play that song,
Yeah.
like it's foolish to me. I get it if you get sick of something, but you gotta if you have that kind of attitude, then just don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
well, at least he had more than one hit. Um,
yeah,
it is weird when artists kind of bash the success they've had. It's like, don't you understand how hard it is to have a hit,
Right.
especially back then? I mean, radio is completely different now. I don't even understand what a hit even means anymore, but I've heard Radiohead say that they don't like playing Creep, and it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, if I went to one of their shows and they didn't play that song, I would not be happy about that.
right.
So
That's funny because you going back to Richard Marx, I saw him on one of the Voice kind of shows. It wasn't the American Voice, it was some other voice. And there was some lady that had a different arrangement for him, and he was like in awe of it. And I think he made the comment about playing it that way or something like that. And it's like you can kind of do that then if you're really sick of playing that song that way, you can change it up and still make it the same song, but like a cool arrangement or something like that. If you're really sick of it, but don't complain about it. Like they made you who you are because of that song.
yeah,
So Brad, something you said jogged my memory when you were talking about bands that kind of blew me away. The last Iron Maiden tour that came around, they had a band opening them called The Who, HU, this Mongolian band. If you ever get a chance to see them live, they were, I can't even describe it. I mean, they had all these ethnic, like cello type electric instruments, and and then they had like a drum player, but then they also had one of those big those Oriental big bongo where they're doing the giant sticks, and they were so heavy, and it was, I mean, everything was all in Mongolian, so you couldn't understand a thing they were saying, but it was so
Sometimes in
just
English you can't understand what bands are saying.
oh, yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if you ever get a chance to see them, if they open up for somebody, highly recommend
So
that.
they're the Who, but they're spelled how?
It, HU.
HU. Okay.
So yeah, when I was going there, I'm like, well, they call themselves a Who, they were playing some Pinball Wizard or Baba O'Reilly. So, but yeah, they were awesome.
And now to the flip side of that, bands that disappointed you. I usually have normal expectations on where these bands are, but the two that popped into my head, and I know it's kind of switching genres again, but George Jones for country, he's had all these hits from when he was, 60s, 70s, 80s. And we went there, Carol and I went there and saw him, and Confederate Railroad opened up for him, and they played longer than George Jones did. And he was old, but not as old as, as he could be. But like, I think he only played like a half hour and he was done. And it's like, okay, well, that's odd. Um, but going back to, our bands, um, this last Motley Crue show, and Doug watched it with us, and I had fun. Don't get me wrong, I had a good time, but I also paid like $150 for those tickets. And my very favorite concert, when I was a kid, or my first kind of real concert, was Motley Crue, Dr. Feelgood show, and I think I paid $17, and that show made me want to be a rock star, like literally. And I knew going into seeing Vince Neil and all them, clips of those guys, I knew going into it, it wasn't going to be great. It's still, and even though I had fun, it's disappointing because of you're going to pay this much and it's not going to be their best effort.
Yeah.
They probably should, pack it up or whatever, because, seeing a Motley Crue tribute band is better than seeing the real thing. It's like and so that's where I put the disappointment, even though I kind of knew what I was going into, but it's still like, that was my band when I was a sophomore in high school, like that, they were everything to me. And so I guess that I'm not to say that I had the expectations, because like I said, I knew going into it, it wasn't going to be that great, and I still had fun because luckily Doug and Lisa were at the state fair and we ran into them and I had extra tickets. But it just, it's just like, where this is my childhood, like, and if it was $17, like it was back in 1990, then yeah, but
Mhm.
$150 a ticket, like,
Yeah.
come
Like,
on.
ouch. Yeah. Yeah, you stole my thunder on that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But actually, I was going to say the one I was most disappointed was on the Stadium Series tour. So they were actually better when we saw them at the State Fair than they were at the
Okay.
Stadium Series. And the group I was with, and they, on the Stadium Series, them and Def Leppard were flip-flopping back and forth night to night on who was the headliner. And so Motley was the last group on that tour. And they got done, and we all looked at each other like they were the least favorite out of all five. We enjoyed Joan
depressing.
Jett more than Motley. So, and the other band, I would say disappointed. The only band I ever in my life have walked out on was Poison after CC left and they got Richie Kotzen. And I stayed for like half the show and left.
Really?
I mean, Richie Kotzen is like an insane guitar player, but to me, it was just a
Not a
bad
fit.
fit. He plays a telly and it was kind of thin sounding compared to, CC's, Jackson's, and Marshalls, and it just didn't work for me.
When my favorite Poison song is Fire and Ice, and they'll never play that live because of that. So like, I would have kind of liked to see how they done that live, but like, they're not going to play that. They're talking about having a 40th anniversary tour or whatever. Like, they're going to play your normal hits from those 3 albums. They're not going to play, because I liked a couple of those songs on that album, but I could see what you're saying, that they're probably not a great fit. And well, Brad, I think you were telling me the story about why it wasn't a good fit.
His guitar style was different from CC's, and yeah, I think they were more interested in him for his songwriting ability to help take some of the pressure off of Brett. When CC joined the band, he had talked dirty to me with him, and it's like, it's a condition of me joining this band that we need to do this song because it's going to be big hit and it's going to break us. But yeah, Richie, he ended up doing some things with,
Well, he took Ricky's
yeah,
girlfriend.
yeah.
Yep.
I think they were engaged at the time, but
Yeah,
uh,
that's not gonna play over real well.
it's
Yeah.
not a good thing to keep you in the band. But well, hindsight probably should tell Ricky maybe he did him a favor.
Yeah.
If she was willing to do that, that it wasn't going to work anyway.
So
But
how about you, Bren?
yeah, I did only see Motley Crue the one time, and I thought they were decent. They were better than what I was expecting because of it was on the stadium tour. Because of what I had been hearing, either they had a good night that night, or I was just expecting it to be worse. Whether or not they were using backing tracks for Vince's voice or not, it sounded a little higher to me than what I thought he would sound like. So you never know if you're being Milli Vanilli at a live show or not. Um, but I thought overall their performance was fine. I think the one that I probably was irritated, I would say the most would ironically been that same show that we saw Night Ranger at in 2018 when Bret Michaels was the headliner.
Yeah.
There were 4 bands, and Bret Michaels comes on last. He only plays 10 songs, and he's telling us to get our hands up in the air every 5 seconds. And it was, you know, talking about hang out after the show and come up and buy some of our merch. And I think he was only on for what, 45, 50 minutes.
Brett Michaels is a businessman, and that's that I think that's about it. But do you think he was better when we saw him over at Treasure Island?
I do.
It was louder, for
Yeah.
sure, which
Yeah.
bugged me because his opening band was a perfect sound. And I get it. If it's too loud, you're too old. But like, it was ridiculous. Like he cranked it up, and it's like, okay, we're in a small venue. You sound better when it was that volume. And I
Mhm.
did think the show was better, but
Yeah.
he's very egotistical. And you're right. Like, I'm not a big, you tell me what to do and I do it person. So like, if you're going to tell me to clap or wave your hands back and forth, I just won't do it. And that night at that show, it was just, come on now, clap. It's like, no, how about you sing and we enjoy ourselves? Like,
Yeah. It felt like he was giving us work to do.
yeah. And like you said, Night Ranger earlier, I mean, we saw Starship that night and Firehouse, I think, right? And
Yeah.
like,
It
we
was,
had a good time. And then at the end of the show, it's like, okay, come on, guys, clap your hands. Let's
yeah.
go. Greenville. It's like, okay, just play your song. And it's going to be those same 8 to 10 songs. Like, you have some other really cool songs that you're just never going to play. So, like, if you're going to have a 40th anniversary, like, what's the point if you're going to just play the hits? Because they're not going to sound as good as back in the day.
Yeah.